to the very first day of Preptober. This is a series of daily questions and prompts to help you prepare for this year's upcoming NaNoWriMo. Today's question is, what is the number one thing people should know about your book and your main character? What is their defining detail? I'd love to hear your answer, so go ahead and leave it in the comments so we can all see what everyone is writing. But I just wanted to make clear, as you're thinking about what your defining detail is of your story and of your main character, I wanted to explain why this is an important question to ask. This question will help you define the sort of flavor and tone of your writing. Some examples might be with Harry Potter, I always think of whimsy. The names are whimsical, like Hogwarts. The mechanics of the magic is whimsical, like the threshold of platform 9 3/4 going to the Hogwarts Express, and even their money, like the nuts and the galleons and things of that nature. And I think a nut is like 17. I don't know, whatever. They're like the exchange rate or whatever is like really interesting. And even the spells, the name of the spells are very whimsical and kind of silly, even though overall, especially if you've watched the movies, it seems like a darker franchise. But really it has this spirit of like a childlike wonder throughout it. And I think that's reflected in the cover art, at least the original cover art, in the titling, and the naming of things. And it helps create this context and this tone and this flavor that helps you focus as you are writing your story. So I want you to think about other stories that you like and try and come up with a defining term or phrase that encapsulates the tone or the flavor of the story. I have a couple of other examples, like the Hunger Games. I think of hunger, and I think that's a really interesting title. It's an interesting title for the name of the competition. They don't speak to why it's called that in the books. I don't think so. At least I don't recall that. But when we think about hunger, we think about starvation, desire, need, drive, survival, hunting, things of that nature, which really creates this picture and this tone for the Hunger Games. It's this idea that we can encapsulate the idea of a book or the flavor of a book in one word. And so for you, I want you to think of a word that defines your novel. It's going to help you focus, and it's going to help you say no to things that you might want to include. Because one of the struggles that I think a lot of writers have, myself included, is that you want to include way too many things. And a lot of writing is just being able to say no to the thousands and millions of options that you do have that you could write about, in order to say yes about the things that really, really matter to help build up your narrative. So sometimes it might be fun to include some things, but if you have this tonal word that defines your work, you can measure up the things that happen in your novel, or the characters, or the dialogue, or the locations and the plot lines, and see if they fall in line with your definitive term. Often, this definitive term, once you kind of think of it, also will apply to your main character. So it's really a useful tool. It's a nice lens for you to look at your story so that you can add more of a consistent flow to it, rather than like just whatever idea you think is super exciting and trying to like wedge it into a story. But anyway, so the third example that I provided is Star Wars. When I think of Star Wars, I think of space. And if you think about it, they don't often talk about space in Star Wars, even though it's ever present. It's just a reality of the story. And even many of the plot points wouldn't make sense if it wasn't based in space. And so that's another reason why this definitive term can help you, because it helps you create a unique context for your story, and it helps you accept that or choose maybe a setting because there's no other place that this specific story could take place. So these terms, you might be like, no duh, Alex, Star Wars takes place in space. Everyone knows that. But I think it's way different when you think about it in terms of your own writing. Because so many of us writers, we're writing our first draft, we're trying to figure out what we want to do, and the story we have not defined our story yet, so it's our job to do that. And if we can do it in one word, it will help focus us. When we look at really popular fiction in our literary canon, it can be really easy to identify certain traits to something that's already finished. But what I'm asking you to do today is to apply it to your own writing. So I hope that this helps explain why this is an important question and why it's so important for you to think about it and focus on it. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say in the comments. Make sure you stay tuned for tomorrow for Preptober Day 2. All right, good luck.